Welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And I am your host, Conrad Cushman, and we are here today with an episode all about you. That's right, you. You guys gave me your questions, and I'll give you my answers. Today is EPW's Q&A. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 47 of the Everything Pro Wrestling podcast. Now, first thing we have to do today is give a huge shout out to the band James Drive. They provide the music on the intro and outro that you guys hear every single week. So we appreciate them helping out the podcast. If you're ever in the local Western New York area and you see the band performing, make sure you check them out. Also, today's show, guys, is all about you. The fans of EPW have given me questions, and I will answer them today. Now, the questions came from the Facebook group, so make sure if you're ever on Facebook, type in Everything Pro Wrestling Group and join our group here. We have about 230-something members right now, and we got a bunch of questions to answer from that group today. And also on Twitter, give us a follow on Twitter at EPW Show. On Twitter, we have a bunch of questions from people. I got a lot of retweets and a lot of feedback and traction on it. So let's not waste any time, guys, and let's get right into this. I'm going to pull all these questions up here on my iPad, and I'm still getting questions coming in as we speak. I just saw another one pop up on Twitter. But we're going to start with the Facebook ones. We're going to go in order of how they were received. And if I butcher your city or your name, I apologize now in advance. First and foremost, we have Johnny Stroud. Johnny, Edinburgh, Indiana. Is this finally the time they put the WWE Championship on an African American? There has been plenty of deserving superstars in the past, but the company has been reluctant to really give the push needed and to actually put the strap on one of them. Thoughts? And he said afterwards, I'm referring to Kofi. I'm sure you know that. Just wanted to clarify. Well, Mr. Stroud, I do have to say this. I have a big problem usually with how people refer to the first African-American WWE champion. The reason for that is, if a lot of you don't know, I myself am biracial, and I feel like sometimes those achievements get overlooked for whatever reason that may be. And I'm not saying that because I want our own recognition. I would rather be recognized for my talents first and foremost. And I'm sure that The Rock feels the same way. And that's who I'm alluding to right now. I feel The Rock was part of African-American culture. He was in the Nation of Domination and seen as Black during that time, or African-American. And I know that a lot of people see The Rock and they're like, oh, he's Samoan. Same thing with Roman Reigns, anybody like that. But you know what? At the end of the day, I don't think any of that stuff matters. I think Kofi Kingston deserves the WWE Championship because he's Kofi Kingston. And as a superstar, he has been absolutely amazing for the past 11 years. I think The Rock deserved it when he got the championship. Are there other superstars who could have gotten pushed and done it? Absolutely. And I don't want you to think that I'm disrespecting your question in any type of way, but this one kind of hit home to me a little bit. And I feel that as someone who is biracial, that we need to look past some of this stuff of African American champion. Is it going to be great for the people to have someone to cheer for? 100%. But I want people to get pushed properly because of their talent. And I think that's what's happening here with Kofi. At least I'd like to think so. And I hope this isn't a ploy or anything like that, but you'll never know. But yes, Kofi Kingston definitely deserves to be the WWE champion. And I think they're going to put the belt on him at WrestleMania at this point. I really do. And I'm hoping for that at this point. So, Johnny, thank you for that question. We'll see if you pop up here again at any point. Next question is from my man, Josh Burton. Shout out to Everything College Basketball. Josh Burton, Peyton Burton, and Tyler Cook. Those guys host an excellent show. If you didn't catch their last episode, make sure that you guys go on the Anchor app and download it. Just type in Everything College Basketball. Those guys are absolutely tremendous. Their names will be popping up on here as well. Josh Burton asks, Kurt Hennig is my all-time favorite. Book a WWF title run for him if he would have gotten the strap in early 1990. Ooh, that's tough. I am also a big Kurt Hennig fan. Mr. Perfect is one of those superstars that you could have easily booked. One of the most hated heels at the time because he did everything perfect. I love the vignettes with Mr. Perfect catching the football, running from one end of the field all the way to the other because he was going to catch the ball himself. Or him dunking I think he was doing basketball dunks in one. And I remember him throwing the ball like behind his head without even looking, and it went in like perfectly. Bruce Pritchard's told some great stories that Mr. Perfect couldn't do any of that right until the cameras were on. And it's just so funny to hear that. But Mr. Perfect at that time was managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan. So let me give this a good go here. So if my memory serves me correct, Hulk Hogan won the 1990 Royal Rumble, and he was the WWF champion at the time. Well, Mr. Perfect was the last one he eliminated maybe that was 91, but whatever, we're going to run with this. Mr. Perfect is the last one eliminated from the Royal Rumble. Now, Hogan back then, that didn't mean if you won the Royal Rumble that you were going to WrestleMania. It was just an honor to win the Royal Rumble. And with that, you could have played off the story that Mr. Perfect becomes jealous of Hulk Hogan and instantly wants to get revenge on him. Now, we saw at one point Mr. Perfect attack Hulk Hogan. That actually happened in WWF, and he took the hammer to the old World Wrestling Federation title and smashed it up. I like that idea, so we're going to run with that as well. Mr. Perfect attacks Hulk Hogan backstage after a big match on one of the television shows, and he does the exact same thing. He takes the hammer, smashes up the belt with the Genius. Now, the Genius then is proclaiming that Mr. Perfect wants to challenge Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship. So what are they going to do? Mr. Perfect ends up challenging Hulk Hogan for the title on one of these shows, and everybody's going to assume Mr. Perfect's not going to win. Mr. Perfect's going to have the hair all messy, the one strap down. He's taking the big boot from Hogan, and as soon as Hogan goes for the leg drop, Mr. Perfect moves out of the way, and Mr. Perfect ends up hitting the perfect plex on Hulk Hogan. 1, 2, 3. Mr. Perfect is now your WWF World Heavyweight Champion, and his manager, the Genius, is going to let every single person know about it. So, Josh, after that, I would proclaim that Mr. Perfect then goes on a championship win streak. He's beating all these jobbers, Tito Santana, and I'm not saying Tito Santana is a jobber, but he beats local talent. He gets in there with Tito Santana, and Mr. Perfect is running through every single person that you put in front of him. And then he has his big match at WrestleMania against Hulk Hogan. It's the rematch that everybody's been waiting for. Hulk Hogan, Mr. Perfect. I think in that match, you have Mr. Perfect once again defeat Hulk Hogan with a perfect plex, but Hogan kicks out of the first one, and it's not until the second one where Hulk Hogan's foot is caught underneath the bottom rope and held by the Genius that Mr. Perfect wins once again. Mr. Perfect will be the most hated man of all time until he goes into SummerSlam. And at SummerSlam, his opponent will be the Ultimate Warrior, and that's where the Ultimate Warrior will defeat Mr. Perfect for his World Wrestling Federation Championship, and you can start getting ready to set up to book Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior Part 2. So hopefully I did that some justice for you, Josh. That was off the top of my head. And I think it wasn't too bad. I think I could have come up with some better stuff to do in between. But for the purposes of this show, we're going to move on to the next question, which is from Josh as well. Who do you think would have been the best tag team feud had you did an NWA versus WWF show back in 1986? Now, when Josh sent this in, I was at work, and I had to think for quite some time on who the best two tag teams were. And the WWF side, I think, is pretty easy for me. I mean, it came down to two teams, and the NWA side is what I really struggled with. And I'm going to let you know right now, the Hart Foundation didn't make the cut for me. They were up there. They were the second team, the second to last team being cut for Team WWF. And for NWA, corny, don't be mad at me, man. But the Midnight Express was my second last team I had to cut. And I really thought about so many ways that I can include them in here, I promise you. But when I had to pick the two teams, I'm going with the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, versus the British Bulldogs. I mean, I don't think the match could get any bigger. And you have such a difference, in styles. So Hawk and Animal and the British Bulldog are pretty powerful dudes, muscled up. Whatever they were on back in the day, it didn't matter. Fans loved them. They were power, strength, loud, cut the classic promos. But when you look at the British Bulldogs, they had technical wrestling down. The Dynamite Kid would bring a different aspect to one of their matches, and I think it would be cool. I won't get into who I would book to win or anything else besides that, but those would be the two teams, Josh. Next question from Connor McCabe. Connor asks, will Kurt Hawkins ever win a match on WWE TV? No, I'm just kidding. I absolutely think Kurt Hawkins is on his way to winning eventually. I think it's going to be with Zack Ryder. Hopefully they treat this tag team as they're worth something in the WWE right now, because Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder are in desperate need of just something to do. And the only storyline right now is that they're both not winning matches, quote unquote, to take their words, losers. And I think that you got to figure out a way to maybe push them towards the tag team titles and get them into a big match. Next, Kieran Flood, all the way from across the pond in Ireland. Kieran asks, how long do you see this whole Becky suspended BS lasting? I think WWF booked Becky horribly since the Royal Rumble with a shitty-ass injury angle. Well, Mr. Flood, I think that Becky being suspended is going to last up until and past Fastlane right now. I think maybe the night after Fastlane at the earliest is when we'll find out that she's not suspended anymore, but she still has to figure out a way to get into this match. And maybe you think it's BS because you're a smart fan, but remember, there's little kids out there that are like into this right now, and they're thinking, oh, Becky's suspended. She can't do anything else at this point. I get it. Becky using the wrong knee, everything else that has caused us a heartache to us smart fans. I get it, guys. But this whole injury angle, I think the fans really want Becky Lynch in that spot. She's still over, and it's going to be interesting to see how WWE books it going forward, to see how they're going to set this up for Becky Lynch to get into the main event and show up at WrestleMania 35 to try to conquer Ronda Rousey or Ronda and Charlotte. So give us some time, Flood. I don't think it's that bad yet. And Flood's next question. It's 5 weeks till Mania this Sunday, and there's no excitement about it. Do you think pay-per-views like Fastlane are bad in the sense that it limits booking and makes spoilers and predictions for Mania too obvious? You could say that, Flood, but I'll play devil's advocate on this one. I think that it can go both ways. I think of other past WWE pay-per-views to where Edge has become the world heavyweight champion because he took someone's spot in the Elimination Chamber, and he wasn't even supposed to be in there, and he's on a different brand, and he's now coming back to be the world heavyweight champion. I can't think of which chamber it was, but I remember him beating down Kofi Kingston. He went into the chamber, ended up picking up the win. I think he took the World Heavyweight Championship from John Cena. Nobody saw that coming. He was on Raw at the time. It was perfect. Now he's back on SmackDown. So sometimes those pay-per-views can add excitement, but at the same time, I feel your point about Fastlane and Elimination Chamber kind of halting the momentum of WrestleMania. And if you had nothing in between this, you could spend a lot of time building. But with the way they're telling stories today, I don't think it matters. Robert Anderson, book WrestleMania 35 with everything that's been given to you up until this point, pre-show and all. Robert, you're killing me, man. This is going to be tough. So this is off the top of my head, so forgive me if I forget anybody or a match. But the main event, obviously is going to be for the Raw Women's Championship. I would book a triple threat match with Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Ronda Rousey. Got to put on an all-time great match for that. That's my thoughts and belief on that. Next match for the WWE Championship, I would also have Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan. I think Kofi Kingston has absolutely earned the spot. The people are behind him, and he 100% deserves this. And I think it's Kofi's time. I think it's time to get this. WrestleMania should have a lot of happy endings, in my opinion. WWE has fallen into everything, and if you just give the fans what they want, it's going to be a win, and you're going to make money off of it. Universal Championship. I think they have the match right. I just think that Brock Lesnar's crappy schedule is messing it up. Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. It's the way to go. Looking back at it, I kind of wish that it was like Drew McIntyre versus Seth instead. But you gotta go with Brock right now, because Brock needs to be defeated and slayed because of his persona and his character that he's been given ever since WrestleMania 30. So, boom, I'm in for that. Next match, John Cena versus Drew McIntyre is another one that I would do. I think that John Cena can go out there and give Drew McIntyre a hell of a match, and I think Drew McIntyre winning with the Claymore kick would be a big thing. So John Cena versus Drew McIntyre is another match that I could see happening. Next, for the United States Championship, we would have Rey Mysterio versus Andrade Cien Almas, and I would actually want this match to open up WrestleMania, because I think that'll get everybody off their feet, and I think it could be in the top 5 greatest WrestleMania opening matches of all time. Next, I think we need to have a tag team ladder match, a throwback to the TLC match, and this one's going to be for the Raw and SmackDown tag team titles. You're going to put 3 teams from each brand in there, and you are going to have the biggest ladder match to crown unified tag team champions. So on one side, you will have the Usos. You will have Biggie Langston and Xavier Woods and The Bar. And they will be taking on the team of The Revival, Aleister Black and Ricochet, and yes, last but not least, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. Those would be the 6 teams I would put in there, and I would have to think about who I would want to win that one, because that would be a hell of a match. Next up, we have for the Intercontinental Championship. Oh, man, this title belt is a belt that has been kept off WrestleMania, in my opinion, for far, far, far too long. The question is, how do you get to this match? I think for the IC title at this point, you need to figure out who best fits into that, because there's a lot of guys in the mid card at this moment, and nobody knows exactly what they have going on, what they're going to do. And I've mentioned only title matches so far. So what does that mean at this current point for somebody like a Bobby Lashley or whatever? So Finn Balor is the Intercontinental Champion at this point. I think Finn Balor needs to have a really, really good match going into WrestleMania. But how do you do it? Finn Balor needs to be put in there in a triple threat match, I feel like, with some people that are going to bring the best out in him. And you guys are probably going to want to kill me for this, but I think you have to put Braun Strowman in there. Why? Because Braun Strowman has not done anything meaningful, and I think we're trying to book him in the best way possible to get him over with Vince. And I'm not saying he's going to win the match, but Braun needs to just be in the mix there to cause some havoc, allow some things to go on, and he needs to figure out a way to do some damage. And I think you also have to put someone else in there who's going to excite the crowd and that would be Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa can offer something different and perhaps surprise the crowd with whatever is going on. And I think you bring in the NXT feud with Johnny Gargano into that as well. Now we get into the next match, which would be Shane McMahon versus The Miz. In this match, I would have Miz play the heel. Shane McMahon is the babyface. Classic, usual style match. And in this one, I think it's long overdue. But if you're going to push The Miz, this is a match for him to win. And I think Miz defeats Shane McMahon and moves towards whatever his next goal is going to be after the draft. And I think I've covered everybody from the main show. And Asuka. Asuka would end up facing the winner of the female battle royal. And who would that be? It would have been Mandy Rose for me. Personally, I wouldn't have went for all this crap with Lacey Evans. Mandy Rose would have been the one to be in that spotlight. So we're going to stick with Mandy Rose. Now, who's in the pre-show match? Someone else, because I'm going to add one more match to the main card, and it's going to be for the Cruiserweight Championship. I would book a Cruiserweight kind of invitational style match with maybe 6 to 8 competitors. I mean, you could take almost everybody from that brand and do this, but only the top guys like Kalisto, Carrillo. I'm trying to think of who else. Cedric Alexander, a bunch of those guys. Put them down there and have Buddy Murphy show off his skills in that match. And on the pre-show, now, you're probably like, come on, dude, don't do this with the person, but I think it'll all make sense. You're going to put that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on there. And I wish I had a match for a guy like Samoa Joe, but the only thing I could book him in besides that would be against Kurt Angle. So if Joe's not going to be the winner of the Battle Royal, he would fight Kurt Angle in his retirement match on the show. Be quick, though, and depending on how Angle's moving especially. And the Battle Royal, Joe would be my winner if that match can't happen. The pre-show match, I would make sure that we feature Mustafa Ali because Mustafa Ali has a bone to pick afterwards. Like, you let him make his big return at WrestleMania. He's all happy to be there, happy-go-lucky. And after Kofi wins the title, you've got a feud right there, instant. You stole my spotlight. I wanted that opportunity. And he doesn't even have to go heel. He could just say, come on, man. That was supposed to be me in that spot. I was supposed to main event WrestleMania, not you. And you can just kind of play off of that professionalism, jealousy. And that's your storyline for WrestleMania 35, Rob. Hopefully I answered that good enough for you. Now we get to the next question. Thoughts on the Elite's overall impact on the New Japan product from beginning to end, and how well do you think their U.S. expansion will fare without their presence? The Elite. I think the Elite were a huge part of New Japan's success with the U.S. audience, first and foremost. The Elite did an excellent job while over there. I thought the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, they were part of the reason why I was willing to tune into Wrestle Kingdom at the crazy hours just so I could see it live. Also, when you think about the Elite and their expansion to the U.S., all of them are gone now. The only person they still have kind of contact with would be Marty Scurll and probably Flip Gordon as well, if you count him into it as well. Yeah, I think that the U.S. at first, when they first all left New Japan, I felt like it hurt really bad. But after thinking about it and everything else that went on, I think that they did all right and that New Japan is still going to be in a good place. I mean, it hurt them for a little bit, but I think New Japan's already rebuilding and they're on the right track. Next question, once again from Robert. Robert, you are killing the questions. Do you prefer attending bigger shows or smaller shows? I know for a fact that we've had more fun at Riverworks, the Armory, the Fairgrounds, etc. So this is a double answer for you, Rob. We've went to WrestleMania. Now, I love WrestleMania because I'm surrounded by nothing but people who love pro wrestling. And that's absolutely fabulous. You can't get any better than that. Pro wrestling fans are the greatest, and at WrestleMania, there's hundreds and thousands of them basically walking around in the area, going crazy. Everybody gets your insider jokes when you make them. It's so cool. If you've never been to a WrestleMania, please go. Go to a SummerSlam, go to a pay-per-view, go to a big show and see the difference between if you only go to a house show or to your local indies. It's truly remarkable. But when you look at a smaller show, there's something about going to a Ring of Honor event, your local indie, that makes you feel more a part of the crowd as well. So when you're out there and a guy gets chopped across the chest and you see spit flying in the air, or the guys are coming through the crowd and they're telling you to move out of the way because they're going to do a big dive into the crowd. All that stuff means so much more, and you just being there live makes it better. I went to WrestleMania 29, and I know a lot of people don't have a favorable look on that WrestleMania, but it was my first WrestleMania, and I absolutely remember it because I was there, and I have a different perspective on it. I have never went back to watch that either. So if that's ever one that you guys want me to go back and watch, that'll be interesting if I ever go back and review that, because I have never watched 29 or 33, and I went to both of those. Very different. But yeah, to answer your question, Rob, I think it just depends on what you're looking for. I like a mixture of both because you don't want to keep going to shows that mean nothing, but at the same time, it's nice to be in the smaller crowds and you're kind of just to yourself and you're just watching good pro wrestling. Like they're just out there putting on a show. There's no cameras, there's no worries. They're just out there and they're wrestling. So it works both ways, I feel, for that answer. And guys, I'm going to get a drink of water. I'll be right back after this brief message from my man, Brian Mazik from Forbes. Stay with us.
This is Brian Mazik, the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and you are listening to my man Conrad Cushman and Everything Pro Wrestling.
I appreciate the love, Mr. Brian Mazik. Make sure you guys check out his YouTube show, At Me Bro. He also has Wrestling with Mazik. He's got so many YouTube channels. Just make sure you type that into the YouTube bar and subscribe to his channel. Brian is an awesome guy, and I appreciate him coming out to the show a couple times for me. So thank you. Let's get back into the questions here. Now, Robert's back once again. How long before the universe switches up on Becky, Kofi, and etc.? I would say give them the belts and then give them a couple months, because that's usually right around the time when wrestling fans get fickle and they turn on somebody. Fickle just makes you think of Daniel Bryan. So true though about wrestling fans. We are the first ones to like turn on somebody as soon as something like that happens. We got to be better, guys. If that's your person, man. Cheer for him. Next, Josh Burton is back. What is the best WrestleMania top to bottom in history? And why is it WrestleMania 17? Mr. Josh Burton, you are in good luck, my friend. Not because you are the host of Everything College Basketball. Not just that. You are in luck because WrestleMania 17, in my opinion, is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Easily an excellent card for WrestleMania 17. The opening match has William Regal versus Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title. We also have a remarkable, excellent, freaking awesome hardcore match with Raven, Kane, and Big Show. All those guys looked amazing in that match too. We had a gimmick battle royal. We saw Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mean Gene Okerlund return to WWE to do announcing for the gimmick battle royal. We have so much goodness on this show. We had Test versus Eddie Guerrero in a European title match. When Eddie Guerrero is on the lower card for this show, you know it's got to be good, dude. And I was a big Test fan back then, not going to lie. And yeah, I thought that was a good match too. There really wasn't anything too bad on this show to the point to where I'm like, I can't take that. But they really did a good job on this show. You have Vince McMahon versus Shane McMahon, and this is during the WWF versus WCW stuff starting up. We had a WWF title match between The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Undertaker versus Triple H. And that was the first time they fought. Dude, that and I don't even think I named all the matches on it. That WrestleMania is freaking dope. Kurt Angle versus He Who We Shall Not Speak Of. Come on, dude. Can't go wrong with WrestleMania 17, guys. Josh Burton asks another question. Explain why the pairing of EPW and ECB are going to take over the world. Well, my friend, that's because we know everything about pro wrestling and college basketball. So thank you, Josh, for those questions. Kyrian Flood asks, do you miss Pyro and would you like to see it return? Kyrian, all the way across the pond in Ireland, you're going to find out something about me right here. Anyone who's ever went to a wrestling show with me can 100% vouch for me on this. I absolutely hate Pyro. Now, I know everybody's probably like, dude, it's part of the wrestling show. How could you hate it? It's not that. It's a personal thing with me. I don't like loud noises like that all the time in my ears. People usually go to wrestling and they are waiting to laugh because I get scared out of my mind every time like Kane or someone else comes out. I just don't like the loud pyro, though. Eventually it starts to hurt my ears. It starts to bother me a little bit. So I don't really feel like I need to see the pyro return. If it's going to be that loud in an arena, excuse me. I just don't think it's necessary. But that's just me personally. I know the rest of the people would want it. Jesus De Leon. Will we ever see John Cena versus Okada? I don't think so. Unless John Cena ends up going to New Japan to sign a contract that we don't know about, I don't see that match happening ever, unfortunately. Jesus is back with another question. Looks like, he asked me a bunch right here. Do you think Dean Ambrose will join the AEW when he leaves after WrestleMania? Yes, if Dean Ambrose is indeed leaving, I do think he's going to join AEW. Hashtag AEW effect. Dean Ambrose would be a great addition to their roster, and I'd love to see what he would do in another company. I think it would just be interesting to see him in a different position somewhere else without the WWE restraints on him, because I feel like out of the Shield, he's been the one shafted the most. Jesus asks, do you watch Total Divas or the Bellas show? I'm assuming the reality show. No, I do not watch either of those. Not a fan of reality TV because people talk about pro wrestling being fake. Reality TV's even worse. So yeah, not a fan. Jesus asks, who would you like to see join AEW? Ah, man. I think I'd like to see some big names join it. A name like AJ Styles or Randy Orton would really set things off for the WWE. I'm trying to think of someone who really deserves a shot. Marty Scurll would be great, I think, as well. Once he leaves Ring of Honor. Trying to throw some other names out there that are in my head. I thought we were going to see Kota Ibushi go over there, but he has signed with New Japan. So many people. I'm more interested to see how everything turns up. But you know what? If I had to give you one concrete answer, I'd like to see a local wrestler from Buffalo, New York, Kevin Bennett, join AEW. I think Kevin Bennett, the remix is absolutely tremendous. He wrestles in Smash Wrestling over in Canada, and he does a lot of local stuff here for Empire State Wrestling. Kevin Bennett is a true talent, and he's actually wrestled on SmackDown Live. He wrestled Andrade Cien Almas. If you ever look it up, he had the blue tights on, and he took that mean, nasty back elbow when Andrade first started doing it on SmackDown. And his next question here was top 5 worst NXT call-ups. Oh, God, dude. After last week's show, this shouldn't be too hard for me. Number 1, and I'm just going by like how they've been treated. My worst of all time, I think that was the biggest disappointment, is Shinsuke Nakamura for how he was treated. What a freaking waste of a call-up with Shinsuke. I find it very, very tough for how they treated him, and you had gold handed to you and you messed it up. I'm going to go out of order with this too, so don't think that it's ranked a certain way, but 2, I'm going to put Bayley and Sasha together because I felt like they were two top single stars down in NXT, and they ended up getting put with the women's division. And now they're a tag team, but I felt like they've just been kind of pushed to the side way too many times, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Have they been in prominent spots? Yes, but if I had to pick someone in worse spots than them that should have been better, Nikki Cross would be another one. So like I said, Shinsuke, Bayley, Sasha. I guess we could throw Nikki Cross on there. Tyler Breeze is another one for me. What a waste. This dude is way better than being in the Fashion Police. He's way better. And even then, I tried to cheer that because I thought him and Fandango could have been like tag team champions on SmackDown. Nope, not good enough. Now he's wrestling on Main Event every week. Tyler Breeze is a really good wrestler. I don't know whose Cheerios he pissed in, but get this dude somewhere where he can be recognized and used for his talents properly. Man, now I got to pick who's my last one. I'm going to go with a tag team, and I know they're a tag team, and I'm kind of copping out here so I can get both of them on here, but Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. Dude, Bobby Roode is the top heel in NXT. He loses the belt. He comes up to the main roster. Why in the bluest of blue hells would you make Bobby Roode a babyface? Why, Vince? Because his theme song's over? Whatever. And Chad Gable. Chad Gable, to me, was the shining star in that American Alpha tag team. Now, some of you are probably saying, how could you say that? Jason Jordan did not do too much in NXT. He had several tag partners, and none of them worked out until he got Chad Gable. And when Chad Gable first came up with the towel and talking and being funny on the microphone, I noticed him immediately. I said, that kid's got charisma. He's really good. And they took off. They go up to the main roster, and then immediately after winning the belts, they lose them, and then they split Jordan and Gable up. It made no sense to me. And Chad Gable really hasn't gotten to show what he can do fully, I feel. And I think in a singles role, Chad Gable could do something very meaningful for the entire WWE roster. So those are my most wasted. I could have went on too for that. Those are my top 5 worst NXT call-ups that they shouldn't have did. And I hope I answered that correctly from what you had asked. Next, the co-host for Everything College Basketball, Peyton Burton. Should WWE only have one tag team title for the men, or do you like tag titles on both shows? Peyton, I do not like the tag titles on both shows. If it were up to me, anybody who was a champion could go back and forth on either show, is how they should do it. The champions are the only people who would be allowed to go to whatever show they want, and you'd have to make sure evenly that you split up your time onto both shows, and each brand will determine a number one contender however they decide to. Like maybe this month, SmackDown's getting the WWE title shot, and you have exclusive mid-card titles, and then, like Raw has the IC, SmackDown has the US. The WWE champion can go back and forth on either brand. The tag team champion can go back and forth on either brand. Same with the women's. It just puts more value on the titles because that means you're a ratings draw and you need to be on both shows. So you'll put the championship on people who matter. And I just feel that there's not enough quality tag teams to support 2 belts at this point in WWE. And the last question from the Facebook questions, Jordan Skyline King. Okay, what do you think of the New Day? Jordan, good question. I know a lot of people don't like the New Day and their whole, they're acting fruity and, they're doing this. Why are they gyrating their hips in front of people and throwing pancakes into the crowd? It's stupid. It's childish. I like New Day. I think that these are 3 people who made the most out of an opportunity that was given to them. When Vince wanted New Day to be these ultra baby faces and it wasn't working, they went heel and got cheered by being obnoxious and annoying, using things from internet memes and whatever else was trending on the internet. And New Day made the most out of their opportunity. And I personally think New Day is easily one of the better tag teams and factions of wrestling today. And the talent that all three men possess, off the freaking scales. So, as we talked about earlier, Kofi Kingston possibly could be in the WWE Championship match at WrestleMania, and he definitely deserves it. So, I absolutely adore New Day, Jordan, and I'm sure you do too. With all that being said, guys, that is the end of the Facebook questions. We are going to switch over to Twitter here. I'm going to get another drink, clear up my voice for you guys. And we are going to play an ad by my good friends, Everything College Basketball. Once again, guys, stay in here. Don't miss another moment as we answer your Twitter questions next.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Burton, inviting you all to come join the fastest growing group dedicated solely to college basketball, Everything College Basketball. Just go to Facebook and in the search bar type in Everything College Basketball. Once you've joined, feel free to begin chatting with other diehard college hoops nuts like yourself. Also, while you're there, go check out the podcasts on Anchor, Podbean, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just search up Everything College Basketball Podcast, and as always, like, share, and subscribe. Ooh, yeah! Dig it!
So I forgot all about this. My first question from Twitter actually comes from a user, Boris Zakov, and he actually sent me like a video of him doing like impressions and voices, and I thought he was pretty good. I'm going to just play a little clip of it, and this is coming off my iPad, so it may not be the greatest quality, but I want you just to hear this guy do some voiceover work.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is a super short report with Boris and Bart. Good day, Rusev fans. How are you today? You're only saying hello to Rusev fans today? That is correct. You heard me correct. Do not ask me again. All right, great. He's in a great mood today. So actually I am too. I'm furious. Show us the WWE Universe, Vince. Why do you hate us so bad? Why? You do things, and like what you did to the man, it's the exact same thing. Is it time to talk about the women wrestlers? I heard you mention the man. Right away, again, like you always do. Is it now time to do that?
I just thought that he did a really good job with that voiceover. So thank you, Boris. But Boris did ask, can Rusev please get the respect he deserves? Boris, that's not up to us, man. I think that the WWE is giving a hard time to Rusev because of all of his past stuff, the stuff with Lana. And I don't think Vince and them are just going to push him. I think they're going to hold him out right now until he gets closer to his contract. Because right now, the way they're treating superstars is once your contract's close to being up, now we're going to treat you good. So, but I think Rusev's too smart for that, and I don't think he's going to go for that stuff, in my opinion. Let's see here. Our next question coming from my man, Foul Original. Make sure you guys give Foul a follow on Twitter. Whoa, that was hard to say. Give Foul a follow on Twitter. Foul_original. So he basically asked, which promotion fell from grace the fastest, WCW or TNA? This is really tough to say, but I'm going to say WCW. At one point, WCW was down in the dumps. Eric Bischoff comes in, he takes over, and I think Eric Bischoff did a tremendous job from the years of like 1994, 95-ish, all the way till 1998. But WCW was never better than WWF, in my opinion. And WCW, and I'm from the Northeast, so maybe I'm biased, but WCW had Vince against the ropes struggling in that fight. And they had the Monday Night Wars in their grasps for 83 weeks, and WCW just could not get the job done. And I think it's just sadder to think about WCW because I actually enjoyed their wrestling. I enjoyed their talent, and I just always thought it was fun to watch pro wrestling during that time. TNA was around longer, and they're kind of just like, they're just there right now. I don't know what happened to them. It's weird to think that this company was once on Spike TV. They were the number 2 promotion in the US, and now they're just Impact Wrestling on Twitch, and hopefully people can find them on TV. And I don't know, I just feel bad for them, but WCW is my choice for that foul. Next, my man Wilfred at NJPWUS. Wilfred is also a podcaster. Check him out on YouTube. PWP Nation, I think it is. He's on so many different podcast networks. Give him a follow at Wilfred Watches or NJPWUS. He has 2 Twitter handles. KO versus DB interests me as a lost WWE fan. Will this just turn into a 7-way ladder match or a one-on-one? Wilfred, that is a tough question here. I think that they're going down the route of Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. Something's going to happen here that will lead to where Kevin Owens is going to go for WrestleMania. But I think Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston is the money match that we're going to wind up getting at WrestleMania. Next, Steve's Wrestling Ramble, and his Twitter handle is at the Ramble_WWE. Actually, we're in a big group with each other to talk whenever our show's on live for WWE. Absolutely appreciate Steve. Always keeps everything up. But excuse me. He says, this is Steven from Wisconsin and the host of Steve's Wrestling Ramble. That be on YouTube and now be on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and other places. And he puts the link to it there. YouTube.com/user/Copland. That's KOPPLIN08. But yeah, just to share that as well. So his question is this. Sir, what are your thoughts on what seems to be the new creative direction WWE is taking on the road to Mania in regard to the Mr. McMahon character, the Raw's women's title scene, and also the WWE title scene? I mean, we might think we know all three to how all three will end, but still. Sorry, awkwardly worded there. Steve, yes. I think that one of these matches will surprise us because that's just what WWE has been doing the past few years. First, the Raw Women's title scene, I think it's fine. That triple threat match looks exciting. That match should main event WrestleMania 35 this year, and I look forward to it. There's nothing really too bad about that. And the WWE title, Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan, appears to be the route we're going on, and I, for one, am all about it. I don't know how the rest of the people feel, but I'm happy. And the Mr. McMahon character, I'm going to kind of revert this to everybody in the McMahon family. I feel very weird about all of their characters. We got Shane giving himself tag team title matches and teaming up with The Miz. How is that cool for an authority figure to do that? We got Stephanie. 1 minute she's a heel, the next minute she's a babyface. Then she's making a women's announcement that will shake the foundation. Then she's part of Connor's Cure. It's just so confusing as to what she's doing. And I get that the Connor's Cure thing is for them to be good, but she's jumping all over the place throughout the entire shows. Triple H, same thing. 1 minute he's a heel, then now he's a babyface going against Batista potentially. And Mr. McMahon's been taking away opportunities left and right, and there's no real way for anybody to get revenge on Vince McMahon. I don't know what they're doing with those characters, Steve. I hope that they find something that's solid and they get a plan and stick with it. Like, I want to see people as heels or faces. I don't want this gray in between. 1 minute I'm this, the next minute I'm that. I don't like that. Bexy Mania. You can follow her on Twitter at Do It With Flareon, and that's FLAREON. And she actually has a blog. You can give her a look at the blonde pipebombshell.wordpress.com. So she asks, who wouldn't you like to see in the Hall of Fame? That is a different question, I told her, because most people ask, who do you want to see in the Hall of Fame? Who wouldn't you like to see in the Hall of Fame? First and foremost, someone who doesn't deserve to be there. I actually wish the Hall of Fame had kind of a traditional voting for who gets in and how they do everything. But I would really hate to see people get into the Hall of Fame who kind of did disgusting, like ungrateful things. And I'm gonna pick Sexy Star from Lucha Underground if I had to pick one person. The act that Sexy Star did to where she beat up somebody in the ring at that time. I can't remember who Sexy Star attacked now because it's been so long. Let me look this up. Actually, I could just type in Sexy Star attacks. And let's see, who did she put? I can't remember. She put the armbar on somebody, and it got very real. Rosemary. Yes. Sorry, I had to look that up because it was not working in my brain. Yeah, Sexy Star has to be out because of what she did to Rosemary. Someone trusts your body in the ring, and you go that far to try to injure somebody, you never deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I think it was disgusting what she did, and I just don't think it was right. The DEO Patterson, I think that's how he wants it said. D.O. Shy Patterson. So he asks, actually, let me see what he does, actually. He didn't put that as well. Looks like he has a YouTube channel. Check him out on Twitter if you guys get the chance. He says, now that Aleister Black, Gargano, Ciampa, and Ricochet are now called up to the main roster, who do you think will be the next top tiers? I'm guessing top stars. Who will be in the next top tiers in NXT? Ooh, man, that's tough. I think that you have a lot of talent down there, but I really see Matt Riddle, the Velveteen Dream, and Adam Cole as that main event scene for NXT, and they 100% deserve to be in that scene. Those guys have star power written all over them. Those would be my main three. The question is, what role do each one play? Two, he has another question. Out of the 4 stars, who do you think might succeed more in 2019? That's tough too. Right now, I'm gonna bank on Ricochet because of his awesome moveset. But the thing that scares me with Ricochet is he doesn't have the voice down. But I think right now we're gonna say Ricochet. He has the high flying moves. He is the Mr. Video Game Man. Ricochet absolutely does it all. So that's my final answer for that. Thank you for that question, D.O. Patterson. That was really good. Josh from Wrestling Reverb. Wrestling Reverb is an awesome podcast as well. Make sure you check that out. He has a show here on Anchor, so just type in Wrestling Reverb Podcast. Josh asks, Dream Survivor Series team, women or men? Well, I'm definitely picking chicks if I have to choose that. But and then Wilfred put men versus women. Wilfred, will you stop? Dream Survivor Series teams, huh? If I had to pick my ultimate women's Survivor Series team, I would put together a team of 5. 5 favorite women wrestlers. I'm gonna go with Trish Stratus, Sasha Banks, Lita, Bailey, and Sherry Martel, because Sherry Martel's awesome and she doesn't get enough respect. Sorry, Becky, you were about to go in that spot, but I figure I picked too many horsewomen for that. So I may have to go back to that. For my favorite men's team, who would I put together? Okay, so I had to do some thinking for this one. I would put together the team of Shawn Michaels is the captain. And then beside him, he will have CM Punk, Test, Matt Hardy, and the classic Shane McMahon because he's on every Survivor Series team. No, I'm kidding. Randy Orton I would put in that spot just because he's always a sole survivor and we need someone we could trust in the background there. Best Damn Wrestling Podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at damn_podcast. And they do YouTube videos as well. They're all over the place. So make sure you give them a follow to see their content. Do you think that the WWE is on a mission to create wait a minute. Are they on a mission to creatively try to sabotage this Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte angle, whether deliberately or inadvertently, as they've introduced pointless things like suspensions, arrest, and not to mention the fact that we've seen them way more than Brock and Rollins? No, damn wrestling podcast, best damn wrestling podcast. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think that they are trying to use devices to keep the storyline moving. WWE struggles today to tell a story in a wrestling world where fans are impatient and quickly want their stories and their payoffs. And in pro wrestling, when you're telling a story, it takes time. You have to go through this phase, then that phase, then the next one, then the next one. And WWE doesn't do a good job of that anymore. And I think us as wrestling fans don't do a good job of giving them the proper time to tell the story. So I'm okay with it. But good question, though. Next up, we have Wrestling Council Illustrated. You can give them a follow at W_C_Illustrated. The professor here from Wrestling Council Illustrated magazine. My question is, what are your thoughts on WWE integrating the cruiserweights more into the main rosters of Raw and SmackDown? Do you think the 205 Live guys could be cross-branded? Good question, Wrestling Council Illustrated. Wrestling Council, yes. The professor, I hope you agree with me on this. I think that the cruiserweights some of them are better than 205 Live. And some of them that come to mind instantly right now are Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander, Umberto Carrillo, I think, is another one who is really good. I would even put the Lucha Dragons above that as well. And I'm trying to think if there was anyone else. You know what? I might even put Tozawa above there from his last performance. He did a hell of a job on that pre-show. Yes, but I think there's integration. There is room for tag teams. Those 205 Live guys are really talented, and I feel bad for how they've been used since the Cruiserweight division has started back up and put on the main roster. Omega Luke. He was the first one to ask a question. So thank you, Omega Luke. That's Omega_Luke. He also has a Twitter. I'm sorry, that was his Twitter handle, excuse me. He also has a Patreon, patreon.com/Omega Luke. He's got YouTube. He's got podcasts. He's your favorite podcaster's favorite podcast. I would go for that. I like Omega Luke. He says, if you had to choose 3 wrestlers from 3 different promotions to join you in a faction, who would you choose? Come on, Luke. That's tough. We're gonna try and make this interesting here. Who would I choose from 3 different promotions? My first round pick here is going to be Marty Scurll from Ring of Honor. Absolutely got to have a villain on your side because Marty has done tremendous work, and I just absolutely think that he is the proper heel. Now, with all that being said, you need someone who's going to be able to muscle some people up because I don't have enough size on my team. So I'm getting Brian Cage from Impact Wrestling next. We got to have somebody like that who joins us, and that leaves us room for one more person, and I'm picking Brian Pillman Jr. from MLW. I think right there I'd have a great faction of heels, great talkers, and brains all behind me, and those are the 3 guys who I can see on the rise in pro wrestling right now. Good question, Luke. And last question, last but not least, from RJ from Revisionist Booking. What's the best alternative to WWE right now and going forward? RJ, I personally think it depends on your taste as a wrestling fan. Right now, I'm going to not include AEW in this, even though I think that they are someone to watch out for if you are a fan of U.S. pro wrestling. Hashtag AEW effect. I know Jordan's got the meme ready right now with Cody having his ear up, and I have the hashtag AEW effect on it in our Facebook group. But if I had to choose the best alternative, well, it depends on your style and who you are as a person. I wouldn't recommend Lucha Underground to everybody, but I love Lucha Underground. I'm going to have to say that the best alternative to me is New Japan Pro Wrestling at this point until All Elite Wrestling is ready to go. New Japan Pro Wrestling is really good, something you can enjoy, characters you can get behind, and the coverage for it has been much better since trying to watch it in the 90s with tape trading or trying to download stuff off of LimeWire, FrostWire. Yeah, that's right. I said all the illegal sites that people used to download the Japanese wrestling matches off of. Trying to watch them on YouTube. New Japan really does have a great product. You have the Bullet Club in there right now with Jay White as the champion. Yeah, I know, Robert, you're mad. Bleh, too bad. I think New Japan's your best bet. But don't think that I'm discrediting AEW. I think that they will be. I just have to wait to see what type of product they're going to put on and see who it appeals to. But if you want a sleeper brand too, ROH is always solid, but I think MLW has been putting on a really good show. If you like those 1 hour shows, they're on YouTube. You could catch up with it all the time. They've got the Hart Foundation down there with Davey Boy Smith Jr., Teddy Hart, Brian Pillman, one of my favorite acts. The Lucha Bros are on there. So much good wrestling on right now. It's hard to say. It would depend on you as a person, who you want to see in these matches, and what you would expect. I greatly appreciate all the questions, guys. This show was all about you guys today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. We've got some big things going on. I do plan on doing a Fire Pro World stream this weekend. I'm also going to be on another YouTube show with Malik once again, Narcolepsy Boy 94, if you guys are looking him up. Last week we did the top 10 greatest pro wrestlers. He's got another show in mind for me this week, so I'm very interested to see what he's got up his sleeve. We're going to do another top 10 countdown, he said. So I look forward to it. Thank you guys so much for listening to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And I am your host, Conrad Cushman. Make sure you check out everybody who asked a question out on Twitter or Facebook. And I'm out, guys. Enjoy the show. This is our outro. Peace.